So you're talking about connection between ourselves and others. How does that affect our relationships?
Oh, Julie, another good question. We talked about how we operate from what we know. We operate from what's familiar. And so if we're operating from a dimmed down sense of connection with ourselves and a sense of resonance and connection with other people, then that's what we operate from. That's what we know. That's our frame of reference for relationships. And so from that place, we're often left with trying to figuring out what's going on with the other person, figuring out what's going on with ourselves, figuring out what to do next, figuring out what's safe, figuring out. But you notice everything I'm talking about strategizing, I'm talking about thinking.
Mhm.
And at a more subtle level, the reality is when we're thinking about, we're not connecting with. And if it's true that what we desire most, what we most yearn for is connection, and research shows that that's true. And and then we're using the mechanism of the strategy of thinking in order to connect with someone, we're actually working really hard in the opposite direction of what it is that we want. And so as we slowly discover more of our own resonance, more of our own capacity to connect with ourselves and with others. And again, we practice in a group where the stakes aren't so high. I mean, think about it. Family connection, partner connection, close friends connection, those are high stakes. So think about safety. It makes a lot of sense that we would go to our safety strategy in order to make sure that we maintain those connections. But in going to our safety strategy, we may well be doing less of getting what it is that we really, really want. And again, this is subtle. This is outside of what we know. But when we learn in these groups that there are other ways to connect with ourselves and with others, we then start very naturally employing that in our lives it's not another strategy. It just naturally arises because this is really what we're working with is our natural self behind all the adaptive strategies. And so gently, slowly, we're not ripping off Band-Aids. And so we just find that, oh my gosh, I was in this conversation with my brother-in-law and we normally get in a bit of a conflict or it becomes a bit of a thing and there was no thing. It's like, whoa, there was no thing. And then we find ourselves getting in a conversation with our partner in a place where maybe it's been a little sticky in the past or a lot of sticky in the past. And maybe we notice, wow, that was less sticky than it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And then maybe we're in a conversation with our parent in a place where it's been a real source of irritation or frustration. And we discover that we can actually see the mechanism that's happening there. And it's more curiosity than it is frustration. And my favorite is when we stop trying to get somebody else to be different so that we don't have to feel the way we're feeling, which is something that most of us are doing day in and day out all the time. And when we find that we loosen that pressure and we stop trying to get other people to be different and we go, oh, yes, oh yeah, I can see that person's scared, or oh, I can see what's happening here. Not in a strategizing way. And this is where it gets hard to describe because it's easy to, again, take that in with our frame of reference that we've lived with. But in a very deep cellular way where our system relaxes as we notice, oh, that's what's going on over there. And then there's no strategy. It's just, oh, right. Oh, I can see that now. And so you can see that as we connect more with ourselves, we also expand our bandwidth and our capacity. It's our capacity to be with another person, our capacity to stay with ourselves, and our capacity to see what's happening, but not in a strategizing way, in a really deep connection way. Because once we can say, oh, yes, then our system has more connection. And so it impacts all of our relationships. But it starts with our own connection with ourselves and our own capacity to be with what's happening, which is what we practice in the groups.